It is mock draft time, about 24 hours away before the start of the 2024 NFL draft. And today on Football with Faria, I'm going to go through every pick of the first round and tell you who I think is going to be the selection. A special edition of Football with Faria coming up right now.
It's time for Football with Faria.
You got to get the offense right, and you got to be able to be aggressive. They put up 14 against the secondary. That is driving me up a freaking wall right now.
Now here's your host, Nick Faria.
All righty. Wednesday evening, for those of you that live in New York, a gorgeous day. Barely any wind. It was like 60 degrees outside. It was absolutely incredible. A lot to get to today. I am going to bring up very quickly before I dive into my mock draft, and I go through every single pick and the reasoning for that specific pick. The basic point, the basic key element that you Jet fans need to be watching out for, and it was really something that came alive over the last couple of days, over the last couple of weeks, but ESPN reported it. Multiple outlets have since reported it as well, but multiple teams right now in the late teens, early 20s are looking to trade up into this first round of the NFL draft. Again, it starts tomorrow, 8 o'clock. For those of you that do not know and live under a rock, I will actually be covering the Jets on site in Florham Park. Very happy that I'm going to be able to do that once again and give you guys the beat coverage you guys deserve. So I'm very, very excited to give you all that tomorrow. But the main point that I want to bring up regarding this is if the ESPN reports, if all of these reports are true, then that is great news for the New York Jets. It is fantastic news for the New York Jets. And I'm going to explain why in a minute. But ultimately, when you look at the Jets' options in this draft, if you look at everything they could possibly do, I said it this morning, there is no feasible way, unless they take a defensive player, which is not going to happen, but there's no possible way that the Jets can screw this up. They can't. If Drake May falls to them at 10 and they take him, that is incredible. Great. Excellent. Because May is an unbelievable prospect. He is my number one quarterback on this board in this class. Absolutely incredible. If that were to happen, take it to the bank. People won't like it because it won't solve an immediate need. But it's still a plausible situation because you allow a young quarterback to actually develop the one thing you haven't done. But there's other ways to do it. They could take a receiver. They could take an offensive lineman. They could trade up for a receiver. They could trade back for an offensive lineman. All of these situations are there for the Jets. And the fact that there are going to be teams desperate to trade up, and a couple of those team names, I think, right off the bat, Jacksonville, the Indianapolis Colts, ESPN mentioned both of them. Philadelphia is another team. These teams need receivers. These teams need cornerbacks. And they aren't going to be available when they make their picks in the late teens and the early 20s. So if you're the Jets, you are sitting back pretty, knowing full well if a deal wants to be made, if a deal is going to be made, it's got to be on the right side for the Jets. That's just where we're at. I see a lot of comments rolling through. Again, I appreciate all of you guys for jumping on. For the newcomers here, welcome. For the returners, welcome back. Obviously, as always, if you guys could like, share, and subscribe to the YouTube channel, that'd be greatly appreciated. We are going to try to take some call-ins. I'm going to try to do that. But today is all about my mock draft and all about the reasoning behind the picks. There's going to be some obvious ones. There's going to be some not so obvious ones. But ultimately, this should be a lot of fun. I want to hear all of your opinions. So let me know what you guys think. If you guys think I'm off my rocker with a couple of selections, if you guys think I'm dead on, let me know. Again, as always, any conversations are included. I will try to get to everyone's questions throughout today's program. So let's get it started. I've been teasing this for months. I'm not putting it up on a website. What you are seeing now is the official 1.0 mock draft from Nick Faria. Plain and simple. So let's start. Number 1 overall pick, the Chicago Bears take Caleb Williams. Everyone expects this. He's a guy from USC. Clearly one of the best quarterback prospects of the last few years. I think there's going to be some questions that he has to answer in terms of maturity, in terms of his overall ability to play consistent football in the pocket. But the Bears have been talking about it. Everyone has known that this was going to be the pick for months. And the Bears make that happen tomorrow. It is going to be the easiest selection you can possibly make and predict going into this draft. Now, the second overall pick, this is where things get interesting. Because in my opinion, again, like I said before, Drake May, to me, is the best overall quarterback in this class. The best, plain and simple. But not everyone agrees with me. And a lot of people like LSU, the former Heisman Trophy winner, Jaden Daniels. And with the second overall pick, I believe that the Washington Commanders are going to take Daniels, which is not a very good thing if you're Jet fans. It's not a good thing. I'm going to explain it in a little bit. But for the Washington Commanders, they need a guy that can plug and play right away. May isn't that type of player. Daniel certainly is. We're going to see how well he performs in that offense without a lot of receivers, without a lot of just overall help in the first place. It's going to be very interesting to see what happens there. But I think the second overall pick, again, this is something that has been jumping up recently. The rumors have come up. I don't think the Commanders are going to be spooked at all by Daniels wanting to play with the Raiders or Vikings. I think this is a surefire bet. The second overall pick is going to go to the Heisman Trophy winner. But this is where things take a little bit of a turn for the Jets, and it's not in a good way because with the third overall pick, the Patriots are taking May. And this is where I said from the beginning of last year, or sort of the end of last year, when they were playing that final game against the Patriots, losing to the Patriots would knock them out of a situation where they could actually take Drake May in the draft. And I thought, if you are the Jets, that should scare the hell out of you. May is not going to be ready to start week 1. I don't think the Patriots would be smart to play him week 1. But if you're talking about the overall prospect and what he can develop, his ceiling is like that of Josh Allen and Mahomes. He is a pure pocket passer with athleticism that is going to slice and dice you in the pocket. And the fact that the Patriots are going to get him is going to be a big problem. And this is why I say, if you're the Jets, you need to make sure that your entire team, top to bottom, secondary, defensive line, offensive line, everything has to be better than the Patriots, because in a couple of years, once Rodgers goes away, you're going to be competing against a really damn good quarterback if the Patriots don't screw it up, which, as we've seen in recent memory, that's not always a guarantee. All right, that's the Patriots with the third pick, and with the fourth pick, the Arizona Cardinals will potentially trade back, but in the end, they're going to stick to the best non-quarterback in this draft in Marvin Harrison. This is a pick that was pretty obvious over the last few months. If Arizona doesn't get the trade that they want from Minnesota, from Las Vegas, Los Angeles, whatever it is you want to say, the Cardinals, if they don't get the deal that they want, they are going to stand tight and take Harrison. This is going to help their offense immensely. This team's going to be a lot better in the next few years. Watch out for them because they could be a surprise pick in the NFC West. Don't be surprised if that were to happen. But I have multiple trades in my mock draft, and here is where the first trade happens. For you Jet fans out there thinking it's you guys, it's not going to happen. They don't have the resources to do it, but the team that does have enough resources are the Minnesota Vikings, and they trade up with the Chargers to take Michigan quarterback J.J. McCarthy. Again, pretty obvious pick overall. The Vikings desperately want a quarterback. They let go of Kirk Cousins in free agency, and they desperately need a restart. McCarthy will sit behind Sam Darnold to start the season, and he's going into a very nice situation overall, but he's not going to start right away. Very good passer, very good athlete. I think Minnesota is going to be very, very happy with this pick in a couple of years. This team, this fan base will probably just need to be patient. With the 6th pick, the New York Giants then will promptly take Malik Neighbors, the wide receiver out of LSU. Again, another obvious pick. A lot of these picks in the top 10 are going to be obvious, guys, mostly because we kind of already know where they're going. They have basic needs, and those needs are going to fall directly to them. Simple as that. The Giants could absolutely trade up for May, and they could absolutely trade up for J.J. McCarthy. And if they do, I think it's an overall mistake. Because if you're looking at where the Giants have needs, they have needs along the offensive line. They have needs at the receiving core. And the defense, while improved, still has major concerns in the secondary and has major concerns at linebacker. Essentially, this is exactly the situation that the Giants were in when they drafted Daniel Jones in the first place. If they take a quarterback, it's a massive mistake because you're essentially doing the exact same thing. What they should be doing is building around the entire team, building around with talent, and then getting the quarterback in the draft, in a trade, whatever it is. And they do that here with Malik Neighbors, second best receiver prospect I have in the draft. And with Neighbors going to the Giants, that will leave the Tennessee Titans with Joe Alt, a new system. Callahan's now the head coach in Tennessee. They need an identity desperately, and that's going to leave Alt, the best offensive line prospect that I have seen in decades, falling to them at 7. This is a great pick for them. Obviously, the Jets could potentially trade up at 7, but I don't think the Titans are going to be willing, even just advertising the idea of losing Alt in this particular draft. Now, the 8th pick is a little interesting. The Falcons can go a lot of different ways. They can go edge rusher. They can go receiver. They can go corner. The team is really talented, and with Kirk Cousins, they should be favorites in the NFC South, and that's why I have them taking the edge, Dallas Turner. I don't think Turner is the best overall defensive prospect in this draft. I don't, because I think the corners are certainly better than anything going on right now along the edge, and even Byron Murphy. They're all very good players. This class is talented, but the cornerbacks are elite in this class. Turner, though, fits a need for the Atlanta Falcons right away. They're going to be able to use him and play him immediately to start the season, and this is going to help them continue on and try to win the NFC South. All right. With the 9th pick, the Chicago Bears are going to have a decision on their hands. They could trade back and accumulate more draft picks to bolster Caleb Williams, or they can take the best receiver in the draft available. And I think most people know where this is going. They're going to take Romeo Odunze. They're going to take him. We all know it. Odunze, paired with Caleb Williams, is a match made in heaven. Really good jump ball receiver. He's going to help this offense immensely. While Chicago has revamped their entire receiving room, it's a safe bet to assume that with Keenan Allen, as old as he is, you want to have a young plethora of talent to develop with your quarterback. This is an obvious one as well. The Jets could absolutely trade up and take Odunze. Is that going to be the best overall play, though, when Odunze is not the best overall receiver in this draft? That's going to be the question. I don't think they're going to do that, and I think it's going to land Odunze in Chicago. It's going to make Williams happy. It's going to make Odunze happy, plain and simple. So now we got to the Jets. 10th overall pick, they could go in a number of different directions. They could trade back. I have been on record for over 5 months now saying that the best situation for the Jets, the best possibility for them to compete in the NFL this season and in the future is to trade back and accumulate talent, accumulate a second-round pick. I don't think that's going to happen. I think the general consensus right now, everyone has been talking, and the selection is going to be Georgia tight end Brock Bowers. Bowers is an absolute offensive weapon. When we talk about weapons, I would argue that he is the second best offensive skill guy outside of Marvin Harrison. He's better than Neighbors. He's better than Odunze. The only problem with him is that he's got that T-E next to his name. That's the only problem. He can win in the slot. He can win outside. It's really going to be interesting to see how good he looks early on with Aaron Rodgers at quarterback, because even when Rodgers goes, Garrett Wilson, Brock Bowers, Breece Hall, Tyler Conklin, that's a very, very strong offense. Very strong offense. So, while I don't think that this is the potential right move for the franchise, I think this is the obvious pick overall because everyone has been talking about it. Now, with the 11th pick, this was part of the Minnesota Vikings trade with the LA Chargers, and the Chargers scoop up right away and take one of the best offensive linemen available in Talise Fuaga. They already have their left tackle, but there's a desperate need at right tackle. And Talise Fuaga is the best right tackle prospect in this draft. It makes the most sense here to go with it. So, we're through 11 picks. We've talked about one particular trade. I have the Jets taking Brock Bowers. I am going to take calls throughout the program to see what you guys think. So let's talk to Johnny right off the bat. Johnny, how's everything going, man?
It's going good, man. You're right, man. You're off your rocker on that one, dude. I know that the talk is Bowers, and look, I'm a Georgia fan. I would love it. Dude, I don't know, man. I don't think he's gonna come to us.
You think he's going to fall before or after?
I think he'll end up falling before us.
Certainly could happen. It certainly could happen. But the Giants need a guy that can win on the outside consistently. The Bears need that too. If you do the math, and again, it all comes down to the overall math, it's going to be a decision between Brock Bowers and the best offensive lineman available. And the writing is on the wall here. They could take Olu Fashanu. They could take Fuaga. The writing's on the wall that Bowers is going to be the pick at 10.
Crazy. But good draft, man. I had to come up here, had to say my piece. I know if Boomtown was over here, he's already like throwing his fists at the air right now.
Listen,
hey,
this is clearly a prediction, and it may be wrong. It may be wrong, but this is what I'm hearing. This is what I expect. If I'm wrong, I'm wrong. If I'm right, I'm going to be circling around Florham Park, waving a white flag, going, "Hootie day! Someone hire me, please."
True that. Yeah, I appreciate you, man. Hey, and you see our Mets 6. We're up 6 right now, 6-0.
6-0. That's great.
6-0. Dude, they went off. I was getting worried because they went on a 3-game freaking losing streak. Mm-hmm. So I was like, but I think they turned it around. And dude, I think they're gonna bring up that pitcher from AAA,
Christian Scott. That's gonna be beautiful.
I hope so, man. That dude looks incredible. So, all right, man. I appreciate you. Keep doing your thing, dude.
Appreciate it, Johnny, as always. So let's continue on with our mock draft again with the 11th pick. Due to the fact that the Chargers and Vikings have traded, Talise Fuaga is going to be the pick for the Chargers. Fills an immediate need right away. This is another pretty obvious one. But we do get another trade with the 12th overall pick. The Denver Broncos are going to be slated with the 12th pick. They are going to trade out because I think they are trading out for a quarterback. They don't get any of the top 4, and they're going to try to accumulate as many draft capital as they can, and that's going to leave the Jacksonville Jaguars trading up in the draft. They could take a corner, they could take a receiver, but in the end, Terrion Arnold, the cornerback from Alabama, is going to be the pick, in my opinion, and that is going to allow the Jaguars to solidify their secondary in a major, major way. This team had problems all year last year in the secondary on the defensive end. They've had to reshape their defensive coaching staff. This is an obvious pick to make. With the 13th pick, the Raiders, in response, they don't get Jaden Daniels as they clearly want. They are unable to get a quarterback. So what do you do when that happens? The obvious choice is to solidify the offensive line. And a lot of people like Alabama's J.C. Latham. I am not one of them. I think that overall, Olu Fashanu is going to be the pick because he's the better overall player. But in retrospect, Latham can play right tackle. Fashanu is a solid left tackle right away, the starter right away. So the Raiders choose versatility over the solid position. They take Latham with the 13th pick. And that is going to leave the New Orleans Saints with an obvious choice. They desperately need a left tackle. They desperately need offensive line help. And Olu Fashanu is going to be the pick at 14, simply because I have him as the best offensive line prospect outside of Joe Alt. Outside of Joe Alt, I don't think there's anyone better than Fashanu. But because of how the board falls, the Saints are able to get him at 14 without having to trade up. It's going to be a massive win for the franchise. Is this going to make them better for next season? Maybe not, because there's obviously a lot of issues on the defensive side. There's not a lot of talent at the skill position, but this is going to be the next stage for the Saints and their overall franchise. Moving on, we're about halfway through my 2024 mock draft. I've got the Indianapolis Colts picking next. They have tried to trade up. They are unable to. However, they are still able to get the receiver of their choice, and that's LSU's Brian Thomas Jr. He doesn't have the same skill set as Malik Neighbors, but the Colts need a receiver. They could also take a corner. In the end, I think they're going to settle on Thomas simply because they know they need weapons around Anthony Richardson. The more you surround your quarterback with talent, the better overall he can be. And I think this is an obvious pick for them, an obvious pick for Thomas, and a really solid match overall. Now, with the 16th pick, this pick is slated to go to the Seattle Seahawks. And there have been people teasing this trade for a little bit now. I think it's certainly going to happen. People have been just completely bombarding takes left and right. Who would this trade go to? What would happen here? But it's important to remember that the Seahawks do not have a second-round pick, and they want a second-round pick. With that being said, there is a team in need of a corner. There's a team that has 2 second-round picks, and I think you all know where I'm going with this. It's the Philadelphia Eagles. The Philadelphia Eagles are going to trade the 22nd overall pick and the 50th overall pick to trade up to 16 with the Seahawks. They will get cornerback from Toledo, Quinyon Mitchell, probably the best overall corner prospect in this draft. I have fallen in love with this kid since the Senior Bowl. A dominant player. Yes, he didn't play at a top school, but he is the quintessential top corner in this draft to me. This is a no-brainer for Philadelphia. I know there are people saying that they expect Philly to potentially trade up for a receiver, and Brian Thomas has been linked to them. But overall, the best case for this franchise is getting a defensive back that can be versatile in their secondary. I think Mitchell is the clear-cut choice at 16 if they are not in love with Cooper DeJean. I think DeJean would make a lot of sense to them as well. But overall, Quinyon Mitchell, best cornerback prospect in the draft, and Philadelphia takes him in a trade-up with the Seattle Seahawks. I'm not done with the trades, though. I'm not done with the trades. And again, if the Jets were getting bad news with Drake May being the pick to the New England Patriots, they're going to get even worse news here. Because I have the Buffalo Bills trading up from pick 28 to take Xavier Worthy. People are going to be upset with me. People could be furious with me. I don't really care. The Bills are desperate for a wide receiver. They are going to be desperate, and they are going to act like it. Simply because this team with Josh Allen has now traded away Stephon Diggs. They've got some solid weapons, but none of them are actually elite. Worthy, is he the best receiver prospect in the draft? No. But can he grow into a number one receiver to help this team out in the long run? Absolutely. The Bills are taking a receiver. It wouldn't make any sense for them not to. It wouldn't make any sense. In the end, Worthy's the pick. 18th overall pick now with the Cincinnati Bengals. And we do have breaking news here, which is interesting because, as Adam Schefter just reported, Pro Bowl defensive end Trey Hendrickson has requested to be traded. Hendrickson is due to make $15 million this season, looking for more long-term security than Cincinnati has been willing to offer. So this is an interesting wrinkle, mostly because I have the Bengals taking offensive lineman Troy Fautanu. Now, I have said repeatedly that I think it's a very safe bet to assume that if the Jets are going to trade out at 10, the Bengals make a lot of sense simply because they have the second and first round pick that is above equal value right now. However, they have desperate needs along the offensive line. Fautanu is a versatile player. He can play inside, he can play outside, and they desperately need a guy to keep Joe Burrow healthy for a full 7. He hasn't been the durable guy they were hoping for when he was the number 1 overall pick. Great player, needs more durability. Fautanu is going to help with that. The interesting piece to this is what happens now that Hendrickson has requested a trade. The next player that I'm going to talk about, the next 2 players that I'm going to talk about, would certainly be the solution for the Bengals in that instance if they want to trade Hendrickson. But you got to remember, it's not always a guarantee, and protecting your quarterback is absolutely more important. Now, with that being said, the LA Rams are going to take Jared Verse from Florida State. Verse is a versatile player, solid edge rusher. He compares a lot to Josh Sweat in Philadelphia. The Rams were one of the worst teams in the league in terms of getting after the quarterback last season. Kobe Turner's really good. Aaron Donald is gone. They could certainly take Byron Murphy here and assume that he could potentially become the next Aaron Donald, but I think they need quality edge rushers, and Verse is the guy for that particular player. With the 20th pick, I have the Pittsburgh Steelers taking Byron Murphy. So Murphy's going to fall to the 20th pick, in my opinion. There are some people that think he could go as early as 8 to the Falcons. There are some people that think he will be a mid-teen player overall in this draft. But the Pittsburgh Steelers, Cam Hayward is getting up there in age. You have guys on the outside, Alex Highsmith, TJ Watt. You need stability on the inside. And Byron Murphy is the absolute perfect pick in this instance. This would be a steal for the Pittsburgh Steelers. A steal. Hey, steal with the Steelers. That's nice. I just realized that. So with the 21st pick, the Miami Dolphins are now up. They do not trade back. They do not trade up. And they take Cooper DeJean. Now, I want to preface this by saying Philadelphia could absolutely trade up with this particular pick and take DeJean. Mostly because I think he's a better fit for what they need over a guy like Quinyon Mitchell. DeJean can play safety. Most likely, his best overall position is going to be at safety, that guy who's going to be everywhere on the football field. So I think overall, it could make a lot of sense that Philadelphia trades up for him. That being said, if they want Arnold, he's going to be available. He's fantastic. With the Dolphins, though, they've got needs all over the place. They could take an offensive lineman. They could take a defensive lineman. They need people in the secondary, though, and they need guys that are physical on the defensive end. The Dolphins right now are considered a very passive team, a team that you can just move around in the trenches without having to worry about anything. They miss out on Murphy at 20, but they're able to get an absolute ball hawk in DeJean right here with the 21st pick. Want to make sure I have everyone on here. I don't miss any questions. And again, if you guys can like, share, subscribe, that would always be appreciated as well. We are at the 22nd overall pick. We've got about 10, 11 picks to go. And this is the one. This was originally with Philadelphia. I have them trading with the Seattle Seahawks. The Seahawks now at 22 take the best available offensive lineman, and that is Amarius Mims. Mims is a really solid player. I think after Fautanu, this first tier of guys, of Alt and all these guys, I think Mims is probably the best second-tier player of anybody else in this class. He's a solid get for the Seahawks. They need offensive line help because they need to figure out what they are going to do, what their identity is going to be. And normally, when you have defensive coaches like Mike McDonald, as is coming into with the Seattle Seahawks, when you have those guys, the first pick is usually a guy that's drafted from the trenches. Mims fits that bill to a T. With the 23rd pick, now again, the Chargers, by trading out at 5, they're going to be able to pick up 2 second-round picks. They were able to select, who did I have them taking? They had them taking Talise Fuaga with the 11th pick, and now they solve the other need on their team, and that's in the secondary with Nate Wiggins. Wiggins, solid player. A lot of people have him as the number 1 corner in the draft. Some people do. I'm not saying I do. I still think it's Quinyon Mitchell, but Wiggins is going to be a solid player in this Harbaugh scheme. This is an overall solid pick. Wiggins and Fuaga is going to give the Chargers the next run of their identity with Justin Herbert at quarterback. I think this is a knock in the park for Harbaugh in his first NFL draft. back from winning a national championship. Now, with the 24th pick, the Dallas Cowboys are now up. The Cowboys can go edge rusher. They can go interior. They could go in the secondary. They could get a receiver. There's a lot of places that they can go. But they have a drastic need at offensive line. And that's where I think the Oklahoma tackle, Tyler Guyton, is the pick at 24. Guyton is a project through and through. In some ways, people can see this as an overall reach by Dallas, but they know what they're doing when they take offensive linemen in the first round. You look at their overall skill set. Tyler Smith is an all-pro. Tyron Smith was an all-pro. Zach Martin. All these guys are really, really good. So it's safe to assume that them taking Guyton, he's going to be able to develop into a really solid player, even if it starts out a little rusty to begin with. With the 25th pick, I have the Green Bay Packers taking UCLA star Laiatu Latu. Latu is a player that, again, Philadelphia could target if they choose to stay back at 22, but I still think that they're going to trade up for a cornerback because that's just their DNA overall. Latu is a solid player. His health is a concern, but the Packers need to get younger at the defensive line. They've got a lot of good players. They've got a lot of solid youth on their roster overall. Getting younger on the edge, certainly up for debate. This is going to be a solid pick overall. And now the run for defense begins. I've got the next 1, 2, 3, 4 of the next 5 selections being all defense. And we start here at 26 with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers taking Penn State defensive end Chop Robinson. Robinson, solid player. The Buccaneers need more edge rushers. Now that Shaq Barrett is gone, now that Devin White is gone, all these guys in the front 7 are gone. Chop Robinson, easy solution right away. Makes the most sense. With the 27th pick, the Cardinals. Now, this is the trade that the Cardinals got with the Houston Texans last season. They took Marvin Harrison with the 4th overall pick. And now at 27, they are going to get the best available corner in the draft available, and that is Alabama's Kool-Aid McKinstry. McKinstry with Harrison might just win the draft for the Arizona Cardinals. I mean, this is a surefire plug-and-play, day-one player. The Chargers could absolutely take McKinstry. I like them taking Wiggins, though, based on their zone structure. McKinstry is an excellent player. He's going to fit well with Jonathan Gannon right away. Now, 28th overall pick. Originally was going to go to the Buffalo Bills. They traded with the Denver Broncos. So the Broncos have now traded twice in this draft. And with the 28th overall pick, they get the quarterback that they want. And it's Oregon's Bo Nix. I think this is going to be an overpay. I am not high on Nix at all. I think there are some major structural issues with him in his overall game. We didn't really see him in a modern NFL offense, and I don't know how it's going to look with Sean Payton. However, Payton wants to win, and he wants to show that he can dominate at the NFL level, and the only way he's going to be able to do that if he drafts a quarterback overall. Could he wait into the second round, potentially take Michael Penix? Sure, but I don't think, and I've been saying this for a long time now, I don't think Penix is going in the first round. I could be wrong, but I don't see it happening. I see the Raiders, I see the Giants licking their chops and waiting to see what happens in the second round to potentially get Penix. With Nix, though, the Broncos are desperate for talent. They are desperate for picks, and if you take Bo Nix now, it shows that Sean Payton wants and potentially has found his quarterback. Now, 29, we've got 1, 2, 3. We got 4 picks left in the draft. We got Detroit, Baltimore, San Fran, and Kansas City. This was the final 4 last season. Detroit has a really solid team overall on offense, and that's why I think they're going to stick on the defensive end with Illinois, Johnny Newton, Jerson Newton. Newton might be the best interior defensive player in this draft, and the fact that he falls to the Lions at 29 is going to be a massive win for Detroit. They continue to need to be able to stop the run, be able to get after the passer. Doing that will help their secondary overall, and they've already made major changes into that secondary. Johnny Newton, the pick for Detroit at 29. Now, with the Baltimore Ravens, again, I think this is really, really easy. This is a really easy pick. Duke offensive lineman Graham Barton. A lot of people project him as a guard simply because Baltimore needs guards now that John Simpson and Kevin Zeitler are gone in free agency. This is a clear pick. Barton's a plug-and-play guy day one. Again, pretty obvious. Now, the 49ers at 31, a little bit more interesting because they could go and add more for the defensive line. They could add another receiver. But I seriously believe that they need offensive line help, particularly on the interior. The Chiefs dominated them in the Super Bowl in the trenches, particularly up the middle. And I think that's why the 49ers are going to get their center of the future in Oregon's Jackson Powers Johnson. Powers Johnson, really solid player, great overall guy. This is an obvious pick overall to me simply because the 49ers need interior line help. This is where they're going to go at 31. Now with the final pick of the draft, two-time defending champion Kansas City Chiefs, they could go Adonai Mitchell with the 32nd pick. I don't have them going that route, though, simply because L'Jarius Sneed has been traded. Instead, they take Ennis Rackstraw Jr. They need cornerback health. They need cornerback depth. Continuing to restock with young secondary players is going to be the name of the game for them in this end. It's a clear-cut pick. For the Chiefs, they could go receiver certainly, but overall, the best chance for them to continue to be Super Bowl champions is to keep this defense as elite as possible. They already traded Sneed, but restarting again at corner makes a lot of sense. It really, really does, particularly because this receiver class is so deep that you can get a great one in the second round. So that is my mock draft. Again, this is only going to be on the stream. I am not posting it anywhere else. So I hope you guys enjoyed. I hope you guys agreed or disagreed or thought that I was absolutely high on drugs. I do not care. It's going to be a lot of fun tomorrow. So now we'll try to get some calls, get some of these conversations going. If you guys have questions, spam the chat. I will try to get to all of them today. But we do have a call right now, and it's a good buddy of mine, Dane O. Dane, how's everything going?
Not bad. Hey, can you pee in this cup for me, buddy?
Yeah, no thanks, man.
No, I really liked it, man. If you ask me, it was one of the more realistic ones that I've seen. And in this draft, I'm not sold on a whole bunch of guys. I got probably 6 guys that I really like, and 2 of the 6 I think will go in the first round, and you actually traded up for both of them. So
name them.
Pretty cool.
Give it to me.
Quinyon Mitchell, man. Phenomenal.
He's good. He's damn good. I fell in love. So I knew that he was good. I thought he was going to probably be the 3rd cornerback taken because Kool-Aid and Terry and Arnold, they're great players overall. They're going in the first round no matter what. I saw him at the Senior Bowl, and I saw him in his reps against Roman Wilson. And I said, man, he's not going to be available. But if Philadelphia can get a trade for him, holy crap, that'd be an amazing pick.
Dude, Connor Rogers and Trevor Sikkema or whatever, they went to that Senior Bowl, and I watched their show a lot, that Stock Exchange. They're pretty good insights, but they sold me on him, man. They said that he was the best player at that Senior Bowl. I don't know if you'd agree, but I think
it's him and Wilson, and he won the matchups against Wilson. That's how I took it. Like, these were 2 great players. I think Christian Haynes was really good as well. But I am looking at the 3 best players, Haynes, Mitchell, and Roman Wilson. 2 of them went against each other, and there was clearly one winner.
Do you know how he wound up at Toledo?
I don't know his overall story. I can look it up. I'm sure that I've seen it somewhere because I write for Pro Football Network too, and I've done so many predictive pieces that it's just driving me up a wall. But
dude, if Philly lands him, that's a good pick, though. It is.
I don't think, and I've said this before, I don't think that it would be the surefire pick for them. I really don't, because I love Cooper DeJean, and the fact that he can play safety it makes more sense to me overall. It just does.
Yeah.
But Quinyon Mitchell's a better corner. And with Bradbury.
I've seen him. Go ahead. Bradbury. The pairing.
It's Bradbury and Slay are gone next season. The contracts are up, and they're going to be over 30 years old anyway. These guys are gone. They still have Keely Ringo. Isaiah Rodgers has been reinstated. All of that's good for the franchise. The secondary is going to be really young next year. But you put Quinyon Mitchell on one side with Keely Ringo on the Isaiah Rodgers on the other, and Keely Ringo in the slot. And I am saying that this might be the best young secondary Philadelphia has had since 2004.
And honestly, with the other guys you got, you need to be able to get cheap. Like you can't afford to come get like a DJ Reed next year. You don't want to spend that money. But what did you have that? I'm assuming one of your second rounders you put with the one and moved up.
Which
probably.
One? Which one?
The Philly trade up. What do you think
So
they give up for that?
Yeah, so I have them giving up the 22nd and the 50th overall pick. They still have 53, but this will allow them to get the cornerback they want and an offensive lineman, Kingsley Sumayata. I completely butchered his last name, and if so, I apologize. But he kind of pegs me as the guy they're going to take in the second round, and then they'll probably just go best available the rest of the way.
Quinyon, though, I've seen some people even mock him like as the first CB taken. I think it just depends on what you're looking for,
It's close. It's close. So listen, Dan, I'm going to ask you this because you are a Jets fan, because this is mostly a predominant Jets show. Mm-hmm. I have Brock Bowers at 10. Your thoughts?
That pick, so it's rational as far as like we could go that route. The other thing, though, like people have a pie in the sky idea in their heads that like Neighbors is going to slip to us and whatnot. I feel like if a guy like Neighbors started tumbling down to us, then Harbaugh sitting right behind us, because I do think that trade gets done, Harbaugh would pounce. And like you think back to the years past, every team that was in the top 5 and slid back for a bounty moved back up. The Dolphins did it with Waddle, and the Cardinals did it. What was it last year for that Paris Johnson? Yeah. So does Harbaugh, starting a new regime, does he take the bounty and stay? Maybe, but he also is going to get any diamond that starts tumbling. So I feel like we're either going to have to stick and pick someone that's actually worth pick 10, which may be a Bowers. That might be an overdraft though. But what I want to do, I want to slide. Because, I mean, where did you – the other guy I have is Mims. You had going in a trade up. I have him
falling to 21 with 22. Yeah, so I have him here with Seattle in the trade with Philadelphia.
See, like, use number 10 for Bowers. That's an option. Or what could I get to fall back to a 20 or –
I've made this point before. Again, this is my mock draft. This is a prediction of what I think is going to happen. I don't think taking Brock Bowers is the best move. And again, I preface this by saying there is no wrong move here. There is no wrong move, because Bowers week 1 against whoever they play is going to be a matchup nightmare. It's going to look great. In the long term, it would look really good if you trade back, take Mims, take Latham, whoever it is, pick up a second-round pick, take a guy like Roman Wilson instead of just Brock Bowers. And again, this is a mock draft. This is not what I'm saying I expect and am rooting for. This is my prediction of what is going to happen.
Do you think Philly could get as high as 10 with their picks, or is that too much of a jump?
So I think it's certainly up for debate, and it's the one trade that I've been sort of teasing a lot that could overall happen. But if I look overall, and if Philadelphia trades at 10, is Mitchell the guy, or is a corner the guy I want them to take? What it would tell me is they want a guy like Talise Fuaga, a guy like Olu Fashanu, who are going to be plug and play in a couple of years and are going to have some position flexibility overall. Everyone is mocking Philadelphia with a corner. They haven't drafted a corner since 2002. And Howie, I know he's bucked trends this offseason. I don't see him bucking a trend overall when it comes to value at a position.
Okay, let me ask you one final thing here. Everybody who doesn't think we'll trade back is saying it because they don't think we're able to.
Oh, you're able to. That. You're able to, 100%. Listen, the ESPN reports have come out. I have heard the same exact thing. There are teams desperate to trade up in this draft. They are desperate. And if that's going to be the case, a trade up at 10 is certainly a possibility. I'm not saying it's going to happen because the Jets are probably going to go to teams and say, give me your first and give me your second. And then we can have that conversation. It may even cost a little bit more. But overall, I just look at it and I say, okay, the Jets at 10, if the team isn't willing to give up a second, why would they take that trade in the first place? Maybe they just say, screw it, we're taking Brock Bowers anyway.
Or they're like Philly and they got 2 seconds. You never know.
There's not many teams that have that, but there's very few teams in this situation. That's what makes Philadelphia's draft so odd. To me, it's similar to the Jets. If Philadelphia trades up for a corner, check plus, take it to the bank, they won the draft. If they trade up for an offensive lineman, check plus, take it to the draft, we're all good. If they stand packed at 22 and make 3 picks in the top 64 in what is a deep class, I'm going to be happy camper too. There's no way they could piss me off in this draft unless it's for a quarterback. Then quarterback factory comes back and I just get Vietnam flashbacks. No, thank you.
Well, what are you doing tomorrow? What's your plan?
I'm covering the draft. I'm in Florham Park. I'm going to be there. It's going to be exciting. I'm going to be very happy.
That's pretty cool. Was one last thing. I don't want to. Mims, were you able to see him in person?
Amarius Mims? No, I wasn't. I haven't been to any of the. Listen, I've been unemployed for the entire 5 months. I've seen, I've read, I've watched tape. I haven't been able to meet any of these guys in person. I'm going to meet whoever the Jets take in person with the 10th pick. That's about as much as I'm going to get in terms of FaceTime with these guys.
That's more than I get. Hey, I appreciate it.
It happens. Appreciate it, man.
Let's just hope they slide back, still get a tackle. That's my 1A. I don't care who it is.
We shall see. We shall see. Dane, thanks for the call. Appreciate it. We do have another caller on right now. It's New York Jets, Florida. How's everything going, man?
What's up, Nick? How are you doing today?
Good. Beautiful day. You guys getting it down in Florida too?
Yeah, it's about 85 degrees. Where humidity is a little bit lower today. Temperature's dropping in the 50s, so it's kind of we're in our flux between our 2 seasons because we only have summer and winter. Actually, in Florida, they say we have summer and summer because sometimes winters are summer, so it's crazy. But the craziest thing is like everyone down here is sick now. You got some kind of Tory thing plus allergies, so it never ends. But I agree with Dano on the trade down, and I'm hearing a lot of heat. Daniel Jeremiah reported that a lot of teams are looking to trade up for offensive linemen.
Yeah,
especially New Orleans.
Oh, New Orleans desperately need the tackle. If they stay at 14, it's only because they feel that the guy's going to fall to them.
Okay, gotcha. I'm interested in sliding down and maybe even getting like a Keon Coleman or taking a lineman, like the best plug and play guy. I don't think I want an Amarius Mims at this point. I mean, he's raw, he's developmental. He may be great in 3 years, but we may be Rogerless anyway. So give me a guy that can plug and play, maybe multiple positions and at least 2. And when we do have an injury, which we're bound to happen on the line this year, we can kind of put him in, or maybe if he's good enough, he can take Morgan Moses' spot, and start.
Yeah.
That's what I'm kind of hoping for at this point.
Appreciate it. So let me ask you this really quick before I let you go. I have the Jets mocking to Brock Bowers. If that's the case and they take him, are you happy?
I loved him at Georgia. Hey, you're the Georgia Eagles are the Georgia factory. They just send him right from Georgia, Athens to Philly.
Thank you. Keep it coming. The next great star. Here we go.
I wanted Bowers like 2 months ago, and I don't think people realize that who's going to cover him. All right, if you're going to get say the Jets take a 3rd round receiver, give me one, Franklin or Polk or whoever. I don't think Polk will make it that far. Say they take Bowers and they take a lineman. Maybe they move up in the 2nd and take a lineman, and then in the 3rd we take a receiver, right? So you got Garrett, you have Bowers, and you have another receiver. Who's going to be covering Bowers? Certainly A linebacker's not going to cover him. You're not going to have many that can cover him. A safety will not cover him. You're going to have to put a corner on him. Or, if the number 1 corner goes in Garrett, he's going to have the number 2 corner. Or they bracket somebody. He's a
And
complete
the other
mismatch.
thing is, with the rule changes, with the hip drop tackle gone, that's going to make him even harder to defend. Particularly in the modern NFL, that's going to make him even harder to deal with.
Right. So I was originally high on Bowers, but I could see JD as kind of a conservative guy by nature. He likes to maximize the draft with multiple, trade ups and trade downs. So I could see if he gets a trade down situation, I think we would go from Bowers if we can get a second.
Appreciate it,
he
Jets
would trade
Florida.
on that one. Thanks, Nick. Have a good.
Appreciate it. I do have breaking news before we go off today, because this came out about, 13 minutes ago. But Adam Schefter, after tweeting out that Trey Hendrickson is going to be requesting a trade, he also said that Cincinnati Bengals wide receiver T. Higgins is looking for a trade as well. If that were to be the case, and you're the Jets, is 10 too much for T. Higgins? Maybe. It may be too much, but the conversation should certainly start. If Higgins is going to be available, this is what I teased months ago. T. Higgins wanting out is certainly on the table. He's going to get a long-term deal done with whatever team tries to trade for him. But if the Jets are willing to part with the 10th overall pick, certainly up for consideration if T. Higgins is the guy. Again, for those of you guys that have jumped on, appreciate all you guys so much. I am going to try and do a stream on Friday. I'm going to be doing it from Florham Park at the Jets facility if that's going to be the case. But appreciate all of you guys for jumping on. If you guys want to see my full mock draft, you can restart the video from the beginning. I go through the entire 32 picks, multiple trades being made, and of course the Jets taking Brock Bowers overall in the first round with the 10th overall pick. So thank you guys so much for jumping on. I will see you guys all on Friday. If not, I will have a draft recap show on Monday, maybe even Sunday. We'll see. Just stay tuned. I've got a lot planned for you guys. Appreciate all of you guys for jumping on. Have a great day.